Today on Investigate TV Plus, jails face a crisis, inmates dying behind bars.
Do you believe this technology will save lives?
I do.
We're asking how a monitoring device could reverse this deadly trend.
Minutes and seconds matter when someone's going through a medical emergency.
And examine the privacy concerns some opponents have raised.
It's the high-touch, highly personal technology that we need to continue to have guardrails around.
Plus, a troubling discovery in the aftermath of a disaster.
Without any kind of strapping or extra anchoring, it is really a bad situation.
An investigation reveals why homes could be susceptible to tornadoes, and owners have no idea until it's too late.
And history meets science, one stitch at a time.
So there was this special type of quilt that meant like for slavery.
How a quilt master's wisdom is inspiring young minds.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. On any given day, the Bureau of Justice Statistics reports there are around 2 million people incarcerated in the U.S. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. The latest data also shows thousands of those inmates are dying in custody each year. Some from natural causes like chronic illness, but others due to overdose or suicide.
It's happening in local jails as well as state and federal prisons, and the fatalities oftentimes are poorly tracked. The most up-to-date nationwide totals are from 2019. In fact, a bipartisan Senate report recently found many of those deaths are going uncounted.
Reporter Heather Graff has insight into the crisis unfolding behind bars.
Plus, a new high-tech approach to inmate safety that some detention centers are trying out. The question is, will it help?
The stories are heart-wrenching.
They treated her subhuman.
And they've made headlines across the country.
She was saying, "Mom, I gotta get out of here. I'm really sick."
This woman in Missouri arrested for warrants on outstanding traffic tickets, only to then take her last breath behind bars.
And she said, "I'll call you later, Mom," and hung up the phone. It was the last time I heard from her.
And in Hawaii,
The video is difficult to watch. We have to warn you.
a suicidal struggle that went undetected inside a jail cell. We're stopping the surveillance video here due to its graphic content, but can tell you this 59-year-old mother and grandmother who took her own life was unresponsive for hours before officers found her. Next to Georgia.
They failed my brother.
And a series of disturbing deaths at the Fulton County Jail. 10 lives lost in 2023 alone.
Their duty, sworn duty, is to not only maintain order, but to also care about the safety of every single inmate.
It is a nationwide problem, and it's not a new one. Data from the Bureau of Justice Statistics shows that between 2001 and 2019, there were more than 65,000 in-custody deaths in state prisons, another 7,000 in federal prisons, and over roughly the same time frame, more than 20,000 inmate deaths in local jails, with illness, suicide, and drugs and alcohol among the leading causes of death.
All it takes is 1 second or 1 minute for something to happen.
Sheriff Jose Quiros oversees the jail in Arlington County, Virginia, where there's been 9 inmate deaths since 2015.
As the leader, I feel like I failed when something like that happens, because I know that if it was my family member, I would feel terrible.
So, when he became sheriff in 2023, Quiros says he was searching for ways to improve safety within these walls.
Early February, late February, I decided to move forward with these devices.
He's talking about biometric sensors that can be worn on the wrist or ankle. They monitor an inmate's heart and respiratory rates as well as movement and are designed to immediately alert jail staff in the event of a medical emergency.
So this device is another layer of protection. We're not putting these devices on and just sitting back and waiting to hear an alarm. We're still doing our visual rounds, our security rounds. What I want to capture are those seconds and minutes in between.
Do you believe this is the future?
I believe that technology is the future.
It's technology made by a California-based company called Foresight Labs.
I have one locked on me now.
And that's their CEO, John DeFalco, showing us how the sensors work.
Imagine an Apple Watch that is locked on and tamper-proof and reading biometrics like your heart rate.
DeFalco, who lives in San Francisco, says his team saw a need, in part due to the alarming rise of fentanyl and an overdose epidemic plaguing his city and others.
So when you take someone into custody, chances are they may have drug addiction issues, makes them very physically compromised. They may have some mental health issues, so they're in this very fragile state. And you have to monitor them and watch them around the clock.
He feels that's where these sensors can help inside jails. And since 2020, Foresight Labs says it's partnered with more than 30 agencies in 17 states, seen here. DeFalco telling us results so far include 12 instances of lives saved.
The idea is that we want to avoid a single point of failure.
But the system is not without criticism.
In jails and in prisons, this is a new phenomenon.
Nicole Turner-Lee is director of the Center for Technology Innovation at the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C., and she says it's essential these biometric sensors come with appropriate privacy protections and guidelines about how data collected from inmates will be used.
Having additional tools for correctional facilities to be able to monitor that on the health-related context makes sense. But what happens with these technologies is there's an enticement to use it for other stuff. So does the prison, when that data is collected, does it suggest that there are more overdoses? Or does it suggest a lack of health equity that is actually occurring
and who
among
determines that?
And who determines that, right?
How do detention facilities strike that balance?
I think it's important for them to be very transparent that they're deploying these programs. And most important, let's keep humans in the loop at all times.
The response from Foresight Labs is that they're already working to do exactly that.
The data is not used for any other purpose. It is offered as an opt-in. All of our agencies say, they use standard language to say, if you don't want it, you don't have to have it on you.
And in Arlington, Sheriff Quiroz said his staff has been specially trained.
Yes, you can say no, but we're going to try and talk to the person as much as possible.
They're also starting out small, with the biometric sensors launching first as a pilot program in the jail's medical unit.
If we're going to get this right, we want to do it right, because these are people's family members, brothers, sisters, loved ones, friends, our community.
A community in search of solutions and lives on the line every day. As for the price tag, Foresight Labs says its system and biometric sensors cost agencies about $1,800 per year per inmate. That would be about $3.6 billion to outfit the entire U.S. prison population. Now, to put that in perspective, according to the Bureau of Justice statistics, the U.S. government spends more than $80 billion a year on corrections and incarceration.
Meanwhile, as of 2023, members of Congress were still pressing the Department of Justice after that bipartisan Senate investigation found in 2021 alone, the DOJ failed to count at least 1,000 deaths in state and local jails.
Still to come, a life-changing diagnosis for new parents.
And he said, no, they're not there. And then I just burst into tears.
How their daughter's rare disorder is inspiring them to see life in a new light.
But first, a tornado rips apart homes, and the owners had no idea their house wasn't secure to the foundation.
150 miles an hour is pretty severe. But I mean, this brick wall came down like it was nothing.
We investigate why it can be so dangerous and what you can do to protect your home before the next storm.
You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime online. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel at Investigate TV. You can catch stories and full episodes. For the thousands of people that find themselves in the path of a tornado each year, the safest place is often right inside their home. But what if that home was missing critical safety features?
In late 2023, the National Weather Service found homes damaged by a tornado that were never properly secured to their foundations. And the homeowners said they had no idea until after the storm.
Investigative reporter Jeremy Finley gives us an in-depth look at the troubling discoveries outside of Nashville, Tennessee.
Juan Resendez is in the removal and recovery phase.
Making sure that the things that I can save, like my son's baby pictures.
The tornado victim knows his home is a total loss, but didn't realize what National Weather Service investigators uncovered under the debris.
When you spoke to me about that earlier today, that's the first time I've heard about it.
Investigators documented that Resendez's home was secured to his foundation with only construction adhesive tape and nails. No bolts, no anchors, no screws. In fact, his entire house shifted off his foundation.
Well, if your house doesn't stay attached to this foundation, it makes it almost impossible to survive.
And it's not just Resendez's home. Investigators found other homes on Kendall Drive in Clarksville, secured to their foundations with only nails. And in other cases, investigators couldn't even see how the homes were secured at all.
Without any kind of strapping or extra, anchoring, it is really a bad situation when you have 150-mile-per-hour winds.
And I got 150 miles an hour is pretty severe, but I mean, this brick wall came down like it was nothing. At this point, I want to be like, hey, who's the builder at the time?
We wanted to know too, but the city's codes department doesn't keep building permit records that far back.
We want whatever evidence that the National Weather Service or whoever did that assessment has so that we can then follow up. And if anybody's cutting corners, we want to know who they are.
Resendez is not pleased that it took a tornado to reveal the truth about his own home.
It's almost like insult to injury.
There are ways to proactively secure your home before the next high wind event like a tornado or hurricane. Hazard mitigation specialist Dennis Wong recommends reinforcing the connection of joists and beams with Simpson strong ties, commonly referred to as hurricane clips. They act as an anchor for the frame of the house.
Generally, the weakest part of a house is the roof-to-wall connection, and that's why the hurricane clip is so important.
Wong also says wooden or metal braces can help secure the walls to the foundation. Structural engineers call it a continuous load path, and it can save a home in strong winds.
So the roof is attached to the wall is attached to the foundation. Every major structural intersection in a house is fortified with a strong connector.
Reinforcing the connections in your home can come at a cost, so before you make any adjustments, experts suggest you talk to a licensed contractor about your options.
Still ahead, a couple learns their daughter is one of only a few dozen known cases of a genetic disorder.
I mean, we had a better chance of winning the Powerball.
Hear how, despite her disability, they are determined to help her experience the world.
I couldn't believe it, that something like that happened to us.
A Missouri family received a devastating diagnosis just days after the birth of their first child. Their daughter, born with a genetic condition so rare, doctors say there are only 24 known cases in the world.
Reporter Jeffrey Bullard sat down with the couple who says their child is inspiring them to see life through a different lens.
Baby Renly Ice, born 6 pounds, 10 ounces.
Whenever I heard her, I just burst into tears, and then seeing her, it was just perfect.
The happiest day of her life would very quickly take a confusing turn.
I did notice that she wasn't opening her eyes right away, so I had asked the nurse, and she had told me, well, in the womb it's dark, so they don't normally open their eyes right away.
But Renly never opened her eyes.
Pediatrician's going over the baby, and then he just stops with the examination. He looks up at us and says, your daughter doesn't have any eyes. I just said it so bluntly. And I just looked at us what do you mean, they're small? And he said, no, they're not there. And then I just burst into tears because, I don't think I could fully process what that meant at the time.
Wanting answers, the family would go to the Children's Hospital in St. Louis the same day after Taylor's C-section, where she'd spend 9 long days and receive a bucket of answers.
It was, for me, confusing because one diagnosis led to another diagnosis, which was actually inside that diagnosis. It was just a lot to take in at one time, so each time we got a new diagnosis, we were just researching and researching.
The doctors determined Renly was born without any eye tissue, without an optic nerve, and does not produce a stress hormone called cortisol. Her eyes sealed shut. But the medical team still did not understand why, so they called in geneticist Dr. Nate Jensen to uncover something he had never come across.
This is an incredibly rare condition. There's less than 30 cases described in the world.
A closer look at baby Renly's genetics revealed a disorder called PRR12.
In PRR12 disorder, there's a spectrum of how patients are affected by it. Some patients with the same gene change might just have one eye affected and it might be totally absent, like in Renly's case, or it might be just smaller. In Renly's case, both of her eyes are affected and they both are completely absent.
Dr. Jensen says research for this condition is incredibly limited, but it could impact Renly developmentally and intellectually. Also, he says there's a 50% chance Renly could pass this disorder on. But if Taylor's pregnancy was healthy, how did this get missed?
There's nothing that Renly's mother or father did to cause this. There's nothing they could have done to prevent it. It's totally random.
A totally random occurrence.
I mean, we had a better chance of winning the Powerball.
But for these new parents, they say they won the jackpot.
Like the whole world in your hand. In the long run, I feel like it was us that was chosen to help her out along the way, and that we would learn from her as well.
Experiencing life in a way they could have never imagined.
Well, everybody, they learn through vision, they learn by seeing things. So with her, instead she's gonna have to feel her surroundings, she's gonna have to smell her surroundings.
Which Renly is already doing, being tucked away with one of Mom and Dad's shirts each night.
It's hard for us to visualize what it would be like if we couldn't see. If somebody took my vision, I would be devastated because, I mean, I know what vision is. I've lived with it my whole life. But for her, this is just her normal.
Renly's mom said in February of 2024 the surgery to unfuse her daughter's eyelids was successful.
While more treatment is necessary, the family says she's doing great and continues to amaze them.
Still to come, students find joy in a seemingly quaint hobby.
It's super fun, I love it.
We take a trip to a classroom where they're learning more than just sewing.
They think they're just having fun and there's a guest speaker, but the quilting project is actually STEM and learning.
Elementary school classes rarely involve sewing, but a group of students in Baton Rouge, Louisiana combined science and math with the art of quilting.
The 7th grade project is led by a woman who has been quilting for nearly 70 years. And with needle and thread, she's connecting a new generation with the ways of the past.
Did everybody have their lines drawn and their 1/4 of an inch?
At 78,
and their sewing lines.
Cecilia Pettisclo never imagined she'd be back in a middle school classroom.
Hey, how you doing?
My journey in quilting has taken me places I never thought it would take me. I'm
gonna put my hand here so you can see it.
I never thought I could have an effect on children.
But the influence she's having on these 7th graders at Southeast Middle School in Baton Rouge.
You got it.
It's super fun, I love it.
Is undeniable.
I love learning new things.
For preteens, often entrenched in technology, this seemingly quaint hobby of quilting is new again.
So I'm sewing, and this is what I've done so far. I've sewed 2 of the 4-inch lines so far.
So if we just get the thread and when you rethread it, you have one long piece and the other short.
I just love the feel, the texture, and the history behind the fabrics. Where's the end of your thread?
Miss Seeley, as she's often called, has been making quilts since high school
What you do, draw your line down the center.
And she teaches the students that dating back centuries, the patterns have told important stories.
So there was this special type of quilt that meant like for slavery, where you have to put on your best clothes and then you run away from slavery. And then there's this one with bear prints. It shows like you're in the forest and there's a big bear.
Where bears are, there's a place shelter and there's a place for food.
Yeah, so cool.
They really are enjoying it. Anything hands-on really brings learning to life. You sort of trick them into learning because they think they're just having fun and there's a guest speaker, but the quilting project is actually STEM and learning.
Science, technology, engineering, and math combined with art and history.
So it's important to get your center line and your 1/4 of an inch.
Math is an integral part as they measure, then cut, and stitch their fabric into a unique pattern.
I'm trying to follow my black line, which is what they taught us.
In this class, it's okay to make mistakes.
Now you gotta hold it in your hand, huh?
According to Miss Seeley, the final lesson to be learned may be the most valuable one of all.
To have fun, because anything that's so stressful that you feel like you're stressed out, this is not time for that. Reginald has 2 sides sewn.
But an opportunity to work together.
So you think this will be pretty when you're done?
Yes, I think it's going to turn out great.
Each student doing their part.
Anybody else need some help over here?
To create something beautiful. The quilting project was organized by the Baton Rouge chapter of the Links Incorporated, whose volunteers were also on hand to help the students sew. Through the Links, the students' completed quilt will be donated to a girls' dorm in the Bahamas to comfort them while they're away from home. And the kids had so much fun learning to sew. A lot of them have never sewn anything before.
I love just seeing all of them. I mean, even the boys in that class who you wouldn't think would want to sew, or a lot of them, and they seemed into it, which is great. Great lesson learned for them.
They wanted to get it right. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Thanks for watching. On the next Investigate TV Plus,
it is a matter of life and death.
Advocates push for devices in cars that can detect drunk drivers, but critics argue the tech violates rights.
I would have to know that civil liberties aren't going to be infringed.
We examine the possible solutions to preventing more deadly crashes.